Am I the asshole for telling my daughter about my first true love? My daughter, 23, is having her first true heartbreak. I mean, she has had aches before, but her and this person are in love, but cannot be together right now because of time and circumstance. She came to me asking how she would ever get over this because they wanted to be together and it was unfair. She was asking me how she would ever be okay alone without him. I told her my own story because I remember when I was her age and felt the same way. When I was in my 20s, I was an international student. I fell in love with someone in my host country and we dated for the entire 4 years I was there. Graduation came and he had to do required military service and I went home to apply for graduate school. We kept in touch and hoped one day to find each other again. Unfortunately, he passed away prematurely, so things didn't work out that way. I was heartbroken for years. I still miss him sometimes, and I remember him fondly. I remember this as one of the most defining relationships of my life, where I grew and loved freely. I had an abusive past when it came to my other young relationships, and people had been cruel to me, but never him. And I told her this. I was trying to explain to her that sometimes really great people come into our lives, but only for a season, and the season could be bad or good, but we learn from it and apply it to our futures. I told her that if I had never met him, then I wouldn't have met her father. I wouldn't be the person I'm today. P.S. I made sure to tell her that none of this meant whatsoever that I loved her dad less or that I wished I was with him. I told her I love how my life turned out. My husband was eavesdropping and was furious. He was angry with me that I never told him how strongly I felt about my ex that died and that it was wrong for me to tell our daughter about that. I told him he was being ridiculous and that it's okay to have people from your past who are significant to you, and I wanted to help our daughter. I also told him it was wrong for him to listen to our conversation. My husband knows that my mother was never someone I could talk to, so I want to be that for our daughter. Then he told me he felt betrayed because if he was alive I'd obviously be with him. I couldn't continue the conversation after that, but when I went to bed I thought about it from my husband's perspective and wonder if maybe I should've kept that to myself. AITA? NTA. You acted as a loving, compassionate mom, and I'm sure what you said gave your daughter comfort. Good on you. As for your husband, he needs to get over himself. He had no right to be eavesdropping in the first place, but putting that aside, this isn't about him. Your past has no bearing on the relationship you have now, and frankly, it's none of his business. I find it really sad that he's obsessing over hypotheticals instead of listening to what you actually said. You're happy with your life and the person you are today. My advice? Don't coddle him, and don't let him make you feel like you have anything to apologize for. He's in the wrong here, not you. NTA. He needs a dose of reality. People have relationships in their past, and they could have worked out, but didn't for multiple reasons. An adult knows how to move on and try to make their life better instead of living in the past. It sounds like he is jealous of the past instead of being grateful for what he has in the present. I'm sorry he's too immature to see that. I hope he grows up. NTA. It's not rational to be jealous of past significant others. The reality is that you're with him, husband, now and share children. Your story was bittersweet, and I feel that it would really help your daughter get through this phase of her life, cherishing the good, learning from the not so good. Plus, you were sharing an intimate moment with your child, and you clarified this doesn't mean you love her father less. I'm sure he heard this part too. Either way, op is NTA. It's actually sweet that you can share a piece of someone who taught you to love yourself with the ones you love. Unpopular opinion, but I feel like you should been more honest about this previous relationship with your husband before you got married. You have a 23-year-old daughter, and he is just finding out now that merely a few years before you met him, you were deeply involved with someone who died. This, I imagine, would be a huge shock, and I feel like it's almost dishonest to not have told him. But also he shouldn't have been eavesdropping. Yeah, I should've told him before. I'd say nah. Obviously you just told this story to comfort your daughter and did not in any way try to discount your current relationship. However, I can understand your husband being slightly upset hearing about it. Nobody honestly wants to hear about how happy and in love their so was in a past relationship. It subconsciously makes them question if they are doing as good or a better job as the previous. I know you didn't say it purposely in front of him though, and you weren't aware of his presence, and again, used this story as a way to help your daughter feel better after a heartbreak. Nobody is at fault here. Nah, or maybe yesh, I don't think you're the asshole for talking to your daughter about this. It's good advice, and being honest with how you feel is definitely a good example to set. That said, nobody on this website truly knows your relationship with your ex and your husband, and I think a lot of the commenters may be judging your husband a little harshly. Is he being irrational? Maybe. That's something only you two will be able to answer. From your post, it seems like you didn't tell him everything about this relationship. If my wife felt this strongly about someone who passed away 2 years before meeting me, I'd probably feel a little insecure too. Your husband didn't know about that. Why haven't you spoken about your past loves and lives together? I sort of feel that sort of thing is a given. And he's an asshole for listening in on something that has nothing to do with him. Listening at keyholes means you're going to hear things you aren't going to want to hear, and he should've kept it to himself if he didn't want to get in trouble for eavesdropping. NTA, your husband is overreacting by a lot. Your husband shouldn't have been listening to begin with. It wasn't for his ears. How we tell stories and depends on the listener. And you also included that you're happy with how things turned out. Good or bad, our past is what brings us to our present and makes us who we are. Your husband might not even have liked you if you had met without those experiences, because you wouldn't have been who you were then. It's also both stupid and unfair to expect you to pretend the past didn't happen just because you're now happily married. You didn't do anything wrong, but your husband is being an asshole. I wonder how you may feel if the shoe were on the other foot and you overheard your husband telling your children a story that indicated that he's with you only because someone he cared for passed away. You didn't do anything intentionally to hurt him, but hearing your spouse say that to your child is painful. Arsehole feels like too strong a word for you here though. You're the unintentionally inconsiderate wife. Your husband can feel how he feels, but doesn't make you an asshole. The person he has married has not changed. The person you are is unchanged by him now learning this information. He is being jealous over a ghost. When people pass away we are still allowed to love and miss them despite the years gone by. We are allowed to talk about those feelings with other people and not be held responsible for another person's insecurity when no ill-will/cruel intent was meant by it. Not like you're reminiscing with regret. Let's be honest, if he didn't die, you may be with him today. So, pretty common for so's to stay together should one not die. Does your husband expect people who love another person that much to never love someone else again? That life isn't for everyone. I don't understand why your husband is putting so much weight on how much you loved X, but has conveniently skipped over this very vital part of your evolution. If I had never met him, then I wouldn't have met her father. I wouldn't be the person I'm today. Sorry, but your husband can't change that and shouldn't be intimidated by it. Give him some empathy, but hold your ground in being allowed to feel how you do and telling your daughter. She really needed to hear it. Now, anyone here who has NTA is either being dishonest with themselves or never been in a relationship. Of course you had previous relationships before your husband. That is not the issue. Neither is telling your daughter about it. What makes it an issue is the way you describe your previous boyfriend. Even in your post I can feel what makes your husband insecure. You clearly loved him and have made it clear that you still hold some of those emotions decades later. Instead of making it clear to your daughter that these were simply memories and that your husband is your only love now, you responded with annoyance, further cementing the obvious that you wish you had a chance to avoid this timeline. Whether you meant to or not, that is what you did. You were trying to comfort your daughter through her heartbreak. It's great that you want your daughter to be able to confide in you when she's going through trouble. Most people go through several relationships before they marry. You loved this young man when you were younger. He made you a better person. It doesn't mean you love your husband any less. You literally said that if it weren't for this young man you wouldn't be with your husband. Didn't your husband have women he loved before he married you? That doesn't mean he loves you less. And yeah, your husband shouldn't have been eavesdropping. NTA. When I had my first heartbreak, my mum did the same thing. She sat me down and told me all the similarities between my shitty ex and hers. I knew she had been married before, but she never talked about it, and when I found out the parallels between our heartbreak, I really do feel like it brought us together and helped ease the pain just a little. You did a great thing and your daughter will remember this forever. NTA. I just felt like it was too similar a situation to rob her of the story. NTA. You're a good mom for helping your daughter. My mom is the same way, and I always appreciated her honesty about her love life. She always answered with complete honesty. If I asked her about her previous relationships before my dad, she even showed me pictures and love letters. Whenever I had my heart broken, I knew my mom would understand and help me. That didn't mean I ever doubted her love for my dad, as I know he is the true love of her life. NTA. You shared your experience with your daughter to help her get through a tough time. Your husband might be feeling jealous or insecure and overreacted. Maybe only caught part of the conversation, but you had a life before him that made you cross paths and you are there because you want to be. NTA. I'm not sure what he was expecting. Oh, we were dating, but I didn't really like him. I got over his death quickly. You're allowed to have a past, and you're allowed to have romantic interests before him. I don't understand what it is with people who think that because you loved someone else in the past, that impacts them now. It literally doesn't, at all. The fact that you were in love with this other guy means nothing to your current relationship. It has no impact on it. It changes nothing in the happy marriage you've had till this point. If it does for him, that says more about him than it does you.